Now, I've been recently doing some of my own live shows and around the UK, and actually one of my favourite bits of feedback that I got was somebody came up to me and said, interesting presentation style between the songs. It was like listening to Radio 4. So I've kind of taken this one on board a bit more. Any of my future shows, on the hour, I'll be doing the pips and doing a short news bulletin after that. So that would get things going along. So breakfast this morning, nice and early. It was a very nice kind of coconut yoghurt. Easily digestible. So my stomach won't ramble on radio. And lots of coffee. OK, computer, I've just got so many vivid memories of recording that album. And I can visualise the room, the setting, the time of night that we recorded that. It felt very intense time for us, quite a heady time as well. I listen to that record and think, yeah, that's when we were actually really starting to get our stuff together as a band.
And it's got to be said, it's quite a big deal to become part of the historic archive at the US Library of Congress. It denotes your work as truly seminal and part of a broader human history of creativity. OK Computer made it largely due to public support, and here is Philip Selway to talk about what that actually means to the band, and to him too.
Hello, I'm Philip Selway. I have to admit that my first knowledge of this Library of Congress came from finding out that we were going into it. But looking into it, it's a very huge honour to be there, going alongside many other, what I would consider significant tracks. And it's going to be there for posterity. So when you're making songs, you're very caught up in the moment, and you want to put across how you're feeling, what's on your mind at that particular time. And that can be quite ephemeral at points, I think. But then to actually have it move over into this very long-term archive, you can't project to that. And so it is a great honour. I suppose if you go back a century, you look at how, music was being distributed, recorded music, it was going out on 78s. And not many of us have got access to that anymore. You go back to, when I was getting into music when I was a teenager, what you listened to on a cassette, and, well, I certainly don't have a cassette player anymore. So I think it's good to have somewhere where actually the content of it is actually preserved in a way that people in the future, if they're interested, can access that music, be that cultural historians in the future or just listeners in the future. It maintains the lifeblood of what gets passed down through the generations, I think. When you're making a record, you attempt to be caught up in those very intense feelings that you have, which are response to, what's going on around you at the time. And I suppose what I've heard from people is that record,
better, happier, more productive,
kind of taps into a wider collective sense of what was going on at the time. Well, I can't speak for everybody in the band. For me, yeah, you feel flattered, when the music is recognised, that's very affirming. I suppose for us though as a band, what keeps it interesting, what keeps it exciting is actually finding out where we're going to go next with the music, and what the five of us can come up with. And so that's kind of always a really important part of what we do.
And we couldn't let Philip out of the studio door without getting some kind of news about what's happening with Radiohead and the new recordings.
Well, we're working on new material at the moment, and it feels the process does still have all those kind of emotional triggers in there. It feels exciting, it feels daunting, but you work through those feelings and you keep on chipping away and sculpting it until it's something that you feel reflects your intention behind making that record.